to a video contributor of ours, Headlines with a Voice. She always does such an amazing job. She's just cutting edge, and if you don't know her channel, I'll have it down in the link below. You definitely need to subscribe to that channel.
She's the best.
Yes.
She's so good.
She's good. Okay, let's get going. This is September 21st, 2018. I met with the DOJ concerning the declassification of various unredacted documents. They agreed to release them, but stated that so doing may have a perceived negative impact on the Russia probe. Also, key allies called to ask not to release. Therefore, the Inspector General has been asked to review these documents on an expedited basis. I believe he will move quickly on this and hopefully other things which he is looking at. In the end, I can always declassify if it proves necessary. Speed is very important to me and everyone.
You know, Betsy, that this one mother of all tweets has disturbed the conclave. So we had to have an emergency meeting so that we could all give our opinions about this particular tweet because it's enigmatic. Trump has completely, in the past, been for transparency. And of course he wants transparency in the case of these particular documents that want to be declassified because they concern the FISA warrant, which was an attack upon him. It concerns Bruce Orr and other Comey's text messages, McCabe's text messages, all these text messages which all are going to reveal the conspiracy to attack Donald Trump, candidate Donald Trump, elect Donald Trump president. And it continues to this very day. So we couldn't understand why he would back off of this when Devin Nunes says that if just the 20 pages that he wants declassified as part of the FISA court requests and warrants for Carter Page, that will blow open the whole thing, that it'll actually, he's used all kinds of very dramatic words for the way that we will react when we read this, because basically he can't tell us that. He could come underneath ethical considerations for being the leader of the Republican leader of the House Intelligence Committee, which has been leading this charge because they're the opposite of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which has been participating in this from the beginning. So we were speculating what could cause Trump to back off in this way. He had already said, yes, go ahead with it. So let's go over some of the facts. Recently, the Gang of Eight, the four Democrats of the Gang of Eight, who are the people who are supposed to be told about any intelligence, particularly counterintelligence actions that are going on that are of national security, so that there can be some oversight for that, so there isn't a bunch of black ops operations going on. So what people don't understand is that the Gang of Eight were told different stories by John Brennan when they were first told about the Crossfire Hurricane in July of 2016. So the Republicans were told something completely different than the Democrats because the Democrats, even at that time, actually already from March, had been participating in creating the dossier and working with Christopher Steele. And they were going to interview Christopher Steele, but Christopher Steele wouldn't come over and do it because it looked like a political trap he didn't want to get caught in. Now remember, Christopher Steele is the person who hated Trump.
Slow down, please.
And didn't want Trump to get elected no matter what. He had absolute hatred for Trump. And Bruce Orr knew this. And Bruce Orr, of course, working as the go-between from the Department of Justice, State Department, FBI, CIA, the White House, and particularly the Senate Intelligence Committee through Mark Warner and Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein to begin with. Of course, Dianne Feinstein is a Chinese operative, as we know. She is an espionage agent. And recently, she disturbed the entire Kavanaugh hearings because of a letter that she wouldn't let out of the grip of her nasty little hand. This woman is a plague of lies and falsehood. Anyway, let's go back. What could Donald... Well, first off, they, being Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, and Mark Warner, demanded that the president not declassify these documents because they would compromise the Mueller investigation, which is in Trump's tweet, right? That they would compromise the Mueller investigation because Trump is under investigation No, he's not. And Rod Rosenstein has said this publicly, repeatedly. Or that it could disturb the sources and methods that were used in the collection of the intelligence that was part of what is going to be declassified. Hang on. Hold on. Why would the FISA warrant actually be called into question here because of that? And why would the tweets, or excuse me, the text messages between Andrew McCabe and Comey and Bruce Orr and the whole gang, what would those actually reveal? This is what we had to struggle with. We know that the entire Democratic leadership went completely nuts and put everything on the line and wrote this letter demanding that Trump not declassify these and giving stupid reasons why. As a matter of fact, those reasons are worse than lies. They're just, it shows clearly that they're guilty, so they don't want to be caught, okay? And then we have, of course, we hear that, well, first off, we have the DOJ and FBI stonewalling and all of this congressional demand, all these congressional demands, whether it be a new special investigator to look at Mueller and his Crossfire Hurricane turned into his special independent counsel investigation with grand juries, which are completely insane? Or shall we look at the politicalization that was not revealed by Michael Horowitz? Only one person, because he didn't show candor during the investigation of the IG, Michael Horowitz investigation, it was Andrew McCabe, and Andrew McCabe now has to supposedly go before a grand jury, and that he is going to have to answer to not even lying, just not having candor, though he was under 5 investigations. And by the way, Michael Horowitz picked up those investigations. Michael Horowitz picked up the Clinton investigations. He picked up the leak investigations. He picked up the perjury investigations of all the people who have lied to us in public, in public testimony at Congress, and nothing happens. The politicalization has already been set aside. And so now, remember what happened with the last one? When Trump told Sessions, do-nothing Sessions, Benedict Arnold Sessions, that he must look into these leaks, because here we have things like it came out that Daniel Richman was on
So who is Daniel Richman?
Comey's bunk buddy, lawyer, institutionalized leaker to New York Times. Daniel Richman was literally a leak agent. And Comey comes out and says, you can't go after him, and you can't go after me. He's my lawyer. Well, that didn't stop them going after Michael Cohen's personal records, which they seized illegally. It didn't stop them going after Manafort's records, which they seized illegally. It didn't stop the special counsel, Robert Mueller, from going after President-elect Trump's entire transition team archives, which they raided. They kicked down Manafort's doors. They put him in solitary confinement. All for what? For nothing. Rod Rosenstein has come out and said there is no collusion, there's no corruption, there's no obstruction of justice, there is no conspiracy. And Trump is not being investigated. But then in the letter from Schumer, Pelosi, Schiff, and Warner, what do they say? Oh, no, this is absolutely what this is all about. Well, why did Trump back off? That's the question. So when you see, as I just tried to show you some of the elements involved here, then we hear in his Trump tweet that allies called him.
Oh, good. I was hoping you'd get to that point soon. I find that the most intriguing part of the tweet.
Now, when he says ally, he has to say that. Let me read between the lines. That means our lion, stinking, five-eye enemy friends flying under the false flag of an ally. That would be, he got a call from Alexander Downer in Australia, one of the Five Eyes, which is the intelligence. It's not a community. It is a pseudo-agreement that we share, sometimes openly, our NSA intelligence, raw intelligence, with Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and Britain, or United Kingdom.
It's the globalists' surveillance system.
Yes, it's part of Entrust, and it's part of the global surveillance system.
They
exactly
trick
as
us
revealed.
thinking that they're different eyes in different countries all working together, but they're all working for the globalists.
So this is who Trump got a call from. He didn't get a call from his allies. He got a call from the people who were guilty, who would be revealed as what they're calling sources and methods. Sources. Here's one of the sources, Alexander Downer, who made the first lie and made one of the first calls. He's a high commissioner from Australia. He was in Britain at the time, working with, Trump probably got a call from this guy too, Sir Richard Dearlove, who used to be the head of MI6, because he was the one directing Christopher Steele, his prior employee, who worked for him. And he was getting his instructions from who? The British ambassador Anthony Wood, who John McCain, in March of 2016, came up with this plan of the framing Trump with Russian collusion and connections, instead of Hillary being revealed as having those same Russian collusions and connections and conspiracy. And so they framed him, and John McCain was there from the beginning. And what did they do? The entire FBI worked on this from then on. Comey wanted to do an op-ed in March of 2016, putting Trump down, saying that he was connected to Russians. When he was put down in the meeting with Obama and the gang that Susan Rice describes in her tweet to herself after the inauguration, when she sadly realized...
I believe it was an email she sent to herself.
Sorry, I always say tweet. Email she sent to herself. After the inauguration, when she finally believed that Trump was going to be president and she couldn't take him down, with the insurance package, that's what the FISA court warrant for Carter Page is, the insurance package, which, by the way, there was no hearing. It was an application when there was no hearing. So what this is going to show is that there really was no hearing, that the information they brought to the FISA court, this is what Trump will declassify. The information they brought there was based upon salacious and unverified information, working with spies from other nations, and that we actually paid them to work with those spies. And then that spy went bad, Christopher Steele, and told too much to too many people and gave out copies of the fake dossier, which, again, I loved what Devin Nunes said just now in one of his recent interviews was, anyone who would read this would know it could not possibly have anything to do with intelligence. Anyone who has ever seen an intelligence report could not have got beyond one line of this without laughing and throwing it in the garbage. And yet John McCain sold it. Henry Kerner took it to Dianne Feinstein. She worked with Daniel Jones. And they released this through Jack Wolf, through Allie Watkins, to try to make it all... James Wolfe, who tried to make it all look bad, that Trump was working with the Russians. This was a huge plan. So what is going to be revealed in the text messages, in Bruce Orr's testimony behind closed doors, and in the declassified pages of the FISA warrant requests, which never went to a hearing. I told everyone this. No one besides us has ever said this, and the conclave argued with me at the time. These were national security letters signed by Comey with blind signature, because he put it underneath Bill Priestap and his two predecessors in the FBI Counterintelligence Department, working with the interagency group, which was nothing more than Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok is Crossfire Hurricane, the interagency group, the guy who took over the FBI Counterintelligence Department and the Department of Justice National Security Division, and ran this whole scam, covered up for Hillary both times, and wrote what Comey said, though he's not a lawyer. Peter Strzok wrote those things. He controlled both the DOJ and all the people involved in this. So he basically worked directly for Podesta and Hillary Clinton. But so, remember, his dad was a spy in Iran. Okay? His whole family are spies.
We're talking about Peter Strzok.
Peter Strzok. He is the worst of the worst. And we told you it would be the worst of the worst, and that they would play him, and that he would be the fall guy, and that where he would work from would be CIA counterintelligence operation under the auspices of national security, under the auspices of national security letters, not FISA court warrant requests, Title I domestic for Carter Page, or international that John Brennan would have to have pulled to create the frame-up with Stephen Halper, another ally who called up and said, please, Mr. President, do not declassify this. It'll blow my cover.
Well, hello, we blew his cover a while back ago.
Your cover needs to be blown. All those people I mentioned, those aren't allies. Those are enemies.
Because when we blow his cover, it works itself right back to the Privy Council and to the Queen.
Stephen Halper was paid by the Department of Defense for a nonsense contract for social manipulation, basically is what it says in the contract, basically social propaganda, which was framing George Papadopoulos with the help of Joseph Mifsud and the entire Cambridge intelligence group, which had to close down because of this, and the Strategic Communication Laboratories ran by Sir Geoffrey Patty and aided in many ways by Lord Malloch-Brown, which is directly out of the Queen's Privy Council. This is a group of people who have controls in America that you cannot believe. They are not our allies, but Trump has to act like they're our allies because everything that he hears, they may hear. Everything he hears through his intelligence community.
Well, because our intelligence agency is actually theirs.
Correct. Remember when Hillary started, right after the Crossfire Hurricane started in July of 2016, 8 tweets where she became so vicious that they were the prelude to her accusing Donald Trump of being in bed with Putin in the last 2 debates with him. And the tweets clearly said that she had insider information that 17 intelligence agencies of our 17 intelligence agencies in our intelligence community, and she would say all 17 have agreed that Putin interfered, and she quoted the joint report on Russian interference in the 2000 in American elections, which basically didn't say anything except the DNC was hacked, which is a lie, and that Sputnik and RT are Russian agents influencing us. And then later we hear all the garbage that Mark Zuckerberg gives us, which shows he's an idiot and there was nothing the Russians did. And then the garbage that Robert Mueller brings out, indicting 25 ham sandwiches. Oops, excuse me, I mean Russian hackers. I mean, it's unbelievable that this investigation shouldn't have to be paid back by the people who are charging us money for it.
And here's the thing. All of us out here see this, and they know it because they did it to us, and yet we can't seem to move forward in getting any of these suckers indicted.
Now, what we had hoped, and we have mentioned before, and some of you will remember, that we need to poke out 4 of the eyes, the 5 eyes. Just poke them out, folks. Take a stick and poke them out. Those are our enemies. No one could be a bigger enemy to us than the United Kingdom. They are bigger an enemy than China, though we are at war with China and on our southern border with Mexico. The UK and the Privy Council has more control over America than anything you can possibly imagine. We've revealed this again and again, and eventually we're going to find out that Axiom, we just found out that in Trust, the man who runs in Trust after Wesley Clark was running it, I believe his name is James C. Jones, he then basically sold in Trust out to another company. And who's that company? Axiom. And we know Axiom because they're connected to the British Privy Council. So we have now come full circle to find that the internet is owned. It's owned by one company, and it's the same type of setup as we have shown you that runs Serco, that runs the Crown agents, that runs so much of America. For instance, when they blamed the election being meddled with by Trump and his team with Cambridge Analytica, they were a small subsidiary of Strategic Communications Laboratory, which we called out when they were calling out Cambridge Analytica, and they have now stumbled and fallen, and they're closing. When we called out Serco, they're being held for $84 billion worth of fraud. I doubt that they'll survive it. We've also called out George Soros's interference in the supposed second Brexit. And what happened? He put 10,000 people on the street and he failed. We called out the 33,000 foot soldiers of Obama that work out of his bunker there that gets the presidential intelligence report and gives it to Valerie Jarrett and Eric Holder, and they run the OFA, which is nothing more than a Saul Alinsky. What is that? Socialism? Fascism? I don't even know what to call it. It's basically Marxism. And what is going on? What Trump found out, because he told us he hadn't, well, he insinuated, he hasn't even read those 20 pages that Nunes is talking about. He hasn't read these text messages, and because he didn't want to get involved because he wants to keep his hands clean. But now I believe he read them. And what he read is everything that we have been telling him. So, Mr. President, since we know you listen, we just want to say, we told you so. And we're going to tell you more so of what's in the other stuff, because why? You are trying to keep it clean, and he's fighting a good, clean fight. And he is the contender of contenders. He is going to be the world heavyweight champion 2 terms, and then a MAGA candidate will run 2 terms after that. And America will reclaim its constitutional republic. But during that time, sometimes he's the only person in the ring, and the entire globalists have come out against him. Our allies called him to ask him not to declassify what America wants to know more than anything else. They want to see if there is a coup d'etat going on. And the allies call to say, don't do that. Those are our enemies, folks. Those aren't our allies. So, Betsy, the midterm elections are now in his hands. He knows he's going to have a red tsunami because he can already see it in things that have already shown themselves.
Well, that's so clear, because if Hillary goes out, she has, 50 people in the audience. He goes out and he packs it. Plus, there's people standing outside. I mean, just look at the numbers.
There are hundreds of thousands of people who are going to go after Mitt Romney's voting machines, which are run by his son Tag in 17 states, to show that basically Mitt Romney is working with Lord Malloch-Brown and George Soros and others who own the election machines in America and have rigged them for a long time. So we have pointed out that this rigging is going on and who's doing it, and we believe that we're going to start seeing pseudo, at least partially honest elections, because the illegal aliens are even being questioned now, with McCarthy putting forth a bill in the Congress saying that these cities that allow illegal aliens to vote, they have to stop that. Okay, then, Mr. McCarthy, why haven't you then supported action against sanctuary cities and the officials who should have been arrested and put in jail for basically allowing criminals back out onto the street knowingly and basically aiding and abetting felons and murderers? And how about sanctuary states? And how about people who refuse to basically follow laws in America because why? Obama and the Clintons and the Bushes didn't follow the laws? Well, they didn't. And the rogue White House has become the great embarrassment of probably the history of America.
Well, that's a lot in that tweet. Can we get back to the tweet?
I haven't even started on this tweet. Do you understand that this is the critical moment of his entire presidency? Well, he has in the palm of his hands the ability to crush the 17 intelligence agencies.
And the mainstream media.
Because NSA is being given out to everyone in the world for free because they're getting a courtesy copy through Hillary Clinton's and Huma Abedin's personal computers. That the Chinese had all 780,000 of Huma's stolen espionage text messages taken from Hillary's server. They were sent to the Chinese. We know this to be a fact. Do we know also, does anybody going to point out that there are 33,000 of the missing emails in 2 different forums in Christopher Wray's office, one on a jump drive and one on 6 CDs. He testified that to Congress. There is no missing Hillary emails. They were used as the framing trap for George Papadopoulos, Sam Clovis, Carter Page, and everybody else that Stephen Halpern was setting up and being paid $400,000 to do it. That's what's in the declassified FISA, but also that Michael Eisenkopf's article that was used to get that 4th FISA that Rat Rodenstein signed and said he did not read. Why did he not read it? Why did he? I told you, when he said that, that's the biggest tell. That's the biggest moment of truth that he had. Maybe the only moment of truth that Rat Rodenstein had during his testimony was he did not read that FISA warrant for Carter Page that he signed, the 4th one that is under question that is being declassified. Ha! Why didn't he? And I pointed out at the time, you see, there's proof of what I said. They didn't even use that. The surveillance was already on by national security letters written by Comey long before because he set up Carter Page in March of 2016. The October FISA court Title I domestic warrant was the insurance package to try to cover what they had already done since March, which included John McCain as one of the principal players, Alexandra Chalupa and her cousin, and John Podesta, and Cody Shearer, the whole group, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, Glenn Simpson. They're all basically espionage, domestic war actors attacking the president at this very moment. That's what Trump saw when he read that. That's what we're going to see. And he can't, at this moment, do that on his own through his system of declassification, which would go through Dan Coats, because Dan Coats isn't going to do it. Dan Coats is a traitor. Dan Coats has not done what Trump has told him to do.
Well, he was told to go and make sure that there was no more surveillance on Americans. Did he?
No, as a matter of fact, we find out that Facebook is putting even more on, Google is putting even more on, and now Eric Schmidt is back from China. Yay! And he's done exactly what I told you he was going to do. Don't get me started on that, right? That'd be a bad thing to get started on.
Yeah, we
don't
need to
want to go
wrap it
there.
up a
So
little bit.
going back to the tweets, let's just say that Trump's move is not really backtracking. He was blown back by the explosion of what he read, is what we believe. And when he said that, he goes, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Since all of you, remember the last time that the leaks came out, they're so pronounced? He told Jeff Sessions to do something, and Jeff said, I'm going to give it to Michael Horowitz.
Oh, everything goes to Michael Horowitz. And then Michael Horowitz sends it over to Huber.
And he's done nothing. There's been no leaks. The leaks on James Wolfe were a different investigation. There have been nothing done by Horowitz about leaks. So that's what Jeff Sessions does. He defers to an IG, a crooked IG, Michael Horowitz, who is ready to be either the next head of the FBI or the next head of the DOJ. That's what Michael Horowitz is being groomed for. Anyway, and this is his test. If he passes this, he can take Robert Mueller's place. But anyway, so Trump said to probably, in this case, everybody. That would be Jeff Sessions would have been there, Christopher Wray, Dan Coats, and every other shadow government operative, saying that they had talked to all of their compatriots in the Five Eyes, and that they all say that this would reveal too much. It would reveal how the Five Eyes work, and it would destroy the Five Eyes. That's what's really going on here. And they need to be destroyed. And so they all are leaning on him. So he says, okay, I'll back off, Dan, since you won't do it anyway because you're a jerk and I have to do a runaround. I'm going to let them have it and let them have their way and let Michael Horowitz again be given this, but I'm giving you a very short period of time. Now, that does not stop other things that are going on. The further leak texts that are coming out, where does anyone think those are coming from? How come no one in the press anywhere is addressing that but us? Those have to be coming from Michael Horowitz in his leak investigation. He has to reveal things now because his entire career is based upon whether or not he shows some truth here. So they're all saying like a Trey Gowdy, oh, Michael Horowitz is doing a great job. So is Robert Mueller. Oh, Horowitz is saying Mueller's doing a great job. No. Sally Yates did not allow the law to go forward when Horowitz said he wanted the evidence that Robert Mueller is looking at because it is absolutely coincidental. It is the same as the evidence he's looking at for what was his first task, which was the politicalization of the DOJ and FBI. Well, what could be worse than what they did with the Russian dossier? That's politicalization of an historic level. So what is going on here? Trump is giving them a little more minute, and he is watching every rat come out and tell him exactly who they are. When Sessions gave his excuse for this, then Trump knew why Sessions is doing what he's doing. When Wray spoke, he then was 100% convinced that Wray was as evil as the rest of them. When Dan Coats spoke, he felt disgraced that he ever put Dan Coats in that position. When General Mattis spoke, he went, yeah, that's right. And when the other generals spoke, he said, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll give him a minute longer. We'll give the politicalized, the weaponized DOJ, FBI, CIA a little bit longer. But all of the intelligence communities are all on a short leash, and they are in their final hours.